and get started here. Thank you everyone for taking out the time to join me today for our webinar. We're going to focus today on managing change orders in Knowify. I'll hold questions till the end of the session. If you have any questions, you can use the Q&A box in the Zoom meeting, and this way we'll leave time at the end to address them. And then at this point, we're also going to be recording this session, so it'll be available on our YouTube channel at a later date. So just a quick introduction here. My name is Vincent, and I'm work for Knowify under the product team. If you don't already know me from training sessions or for these webinars, it's nice to meet you today, and thank you again for taking out your time. So today's session, like I said, is going to cover the change orders. What we're going to do is start off by how to create and customize how the change order looks. The next thing we'll move into is how to customize sending the change order out for digital e-signature and how that looks. We'll also walk through what happens next after the change order is approved, just being able to walk through tracking cost and invoicing them. We'll try to walk through an example of both a standard change order as well as a change order for an AIA job. And last, we'll show a couple of reports. We have a bunch of reports that include change orders. The two we'll be focusing on is the job-specific change report, as well as the larger change order report, which covers multiple jobs. And at that point, we will open it up for Q&A and go over any questions that you have. You can submit them anytime throughout or at the end, and we'll cover them as we can. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started and jump into my Knowify account here. So at this point, whenever it comes to change orders, I just want to make a note that this is only an available feature once you have an active contract. So we're going to kind of skip past the part of creating a job and a contract today. And at this point, I'm just going to be working off of jobs that are active that have a contract already set up. This way we can start focusing on the change order aspect. So we'll be able to add change orders and manage them in the contract section, contract and change orders located at the top. And again, any active contract here, if I scroll down to the bottom, I'll have the option to add a new change order. When we add a change order in Knowify, we have a lot of the same options as when we're adding line items to initially create our contract. We can start typing in the name of a description here, and Knowify is automatically going to search our catalog. So we can use our catalog services as the change order name, or we can always just come in here and manually type something in. We can then set a price for what we're going to bill for this change order. And this is essentially all that is required at this point in order for us to send out for signature or to make it active. Now, when it comes to customizing these, we have a couple of additional options here, which are the same as your line items when you build your contract. The first is enter details or comments for client. And this basically just gives you a text box. So any description of work, scope of services, any kind of information we want the customer or GC to know about our change order, we'll be able to enter into this box and it will display on the change order document. I can also use the breakdown or bill of materials here, and this is an option for not only just displaying more information by listing specific items, quantities, and their prices, but I can also use the markup box so that if I need help determining how much I want to charge for this change order, I can list the items I'm going to need, apply a markup, and set the price that way. For instance, and I can also start typing in here and know if I will search my catalog. I can add one or more items here, whether they're catalog items or new items. And then if it's a catalog item, my markup will be applied automatically by taking into account the difference between the cost and the price of that item. But anything I manually enter, I can always put in the markup here, and I can always change the markup for anything existing for this specific change order. Now, I have the option to hide or show this to my customer. So we will always hide the markup no matter what, but if I want to actually show them this breakdown so they see what materials I need and the quantities and how I'm coming up with the price, we can show it, or we can toggle this box here so that this is hidden And I'm simply just using this internally in order to set the price of my change order. And that's the last part here. I can always manually enter a price in the box for the change order, or if I want to use the pricing I set in my breakdown, I can click down here to set the line item total to this price, and Knowify will override what I entered, and it'll automatically set the price by marking up these materials and their quantities. I can even use this as a basis just to get an idea, and then I can round up or down accordingly, manually set the price. It's entirely up to you how you want to set this up. So let's go ahead and save as a draft. In order to move forward now, we're able to send this change order out for a digital e-signature. So just like with our proposals, we can send this to our customer or GC, and they'll be able to view an e-sign link, review this change order document, and then accept it to make it active. Or they will always be able to request a revision or decline the change order as well. But the idea here is we have a signed contract for this amount, and now anytime I'm going to adjust the value of that contract with the change order, I want to be able to at least have the option to collect the signature as well. So when it comes time to invoice, I can show that my customer has signed off on our contract and any changes to that contract. So let's just take a look at our defaults document for the change orders here. You can see it just gives me some general information about our customer and job. This is where that scope of work and breakdown comes into play. And again, this is entirely optional, but the ability to put more details about each change order. And then most importantly here, I have the subtotal of the change order, and it's going to show me based on what the contract was before and what the contract will be after once this is signed. Now I can always go ahead and make it active if I have their authorization, or I can send it out for a signature. And before we send out for signature, I just want to show one more thing here. If I'm working on a change order and I add a new change order at the same time, I pay attention closely to the change order number that's listed in this box here. For example, if I keep the change order number the same, then what it's going to do is it's going to keep this as part of the same change order and just add it as a second line item. So this way I can actually have multiple line items under the same change order. For instance, if I keep these both set at change order number 1, when I preview it, you'll see that the document shows not only our original, but also our second change order line as well. So this way I can go into even more detail and further price out this particular change order number 1 here. Now, if I'm setting up another change order here and I know it's going to be separate, maybe this one's going out for signature, this one's not ready. What I can do is just change the change order number in this box, and now they'll be tracked separately. So if I send this out for signature or make it active, this one here will still remain in a draft because it's Knowify's treating it as a separate change order altogether. So to send this out for a change order here, I can click that button, which will let me propose an email. And if you've been using our signature process for proposals, this is a nearly identical process, the difference being the actual document itself. I can come in here and set up my recipients here. I can set up a subject and a email message here. And where you see this link, Knowify is going to fill in a link to our e-sign page so that they can review this and go ahead and sign it online. And just like with the status of a job when we send it out, we update the status of the change order. So now the change order will show me that it's currently out for signature. I can even add a built-in reminder here to follow up about this. And whenever I come back to the contract section of the job, I can see that, change order number 2, we're still in a draft. Change order number 1, we're awaiting signature from our customer. I can even go in here under more actions if I want to review that change order document, if I want to save it as a Word document so I can manipulate it outside of Knowify. I can always manually mark it as rejected or cancel the request so that it'll let me work on it and make changes to it. Or we can actually go directly to the e-sign page right here. So just to give you an idea of what the customer would see on their side. Now, once this change order is approved, I'm actually going to make this second one here active. I'm now able to go ahead and invoice for it. Now, I'd just like to note here, because a common question we get is about how to track cost for these change orders, and we can certainly appreciate that. Essentially, these change orders are designed to specifically just affect the contract. Your plan and track section is independent of your contract, so you're able to track your cost, not necessarily the same way that you invoice your customer. So your costs would still be tracked the same in plan and track once the change order has been approved. But we've added options here so that if you'd like to add a separate job phase in your plan and track section so that any cost going towards this change you're able to track separately, you have several options for that depending on which job costing style you used. And just a reminder there, the job costing style, when you create your project, that's where it asks you to choose between simple, advanced, or professional. And based on what you choose there, we'll be able to automate this for you. For example, this job, I believe, was created in advanced mode. So once this change order is approved, if I go to the plan and track section, I should automatically have a job phase set up for this change order. So in advanced mode, there's nothing I need to do. Every time a change order is made active, we will have a separate phase for it. So I can keep track of the total cost of the job, but I can also isolate what this change order is costing me specifically. And I'll get to the professional mode option in our AIA example. Okay, so I'm gonna just transition here into a fixed price with an AIA contract. Actually, just create a new one here. I'm going to keep it in professional mode so I can show you the option of how to create a phase for this when the job is not using advanced mode. Keep in mind, if you're using simple mode, then no matter what you do to your contract, there's always one job phase for all of the cost. So if you needed to separate the change order, you would just need to edit your plan and track section and manually add a phase. Advanced mode will automate it, and I'll walk through the process here for professional. So just to get us to the point here, I'm going to just create a quick contract, make it active so that we can start adding change orders. Okay, so I have the same options with the AIA job. There's really not a lot of difference here. I add change order and I have those same options as far as details and the breakdown. So I'll just come in here and create a change order sample. I have the option to update the change order number. The difference for AIA change orders is you have this GC reference number that you can use. And what this does is when you create an AIA invoice, the change order is going to be displayed on your continuation sheet, also known as the G703 document. And this GC reference, whatever you enter in this box, this is how we will display the change order on that sheet. So if I want to know internally that change order number 1 here is for 12,000, but I want the customer to see something else here, I can actually put in a GC reference, whether it's a number or text. And this way on that AIA document, they will actually see this instead of the change order name. So we'll move into the invoicing portion of it. And I guess, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the costing part. So with professional mode, by default, I've created my change order. It's active, but notice how nothing's been added to my plan and track section here. So one option is I can come in here and I can actually just manually add a job phase. That's one option, but we do have a way of automating this as well. What I can do is go into my contract section here, and under the change order, you'll see next to the name, there is this gear icon. And this is very important as well, because if you ever need to make changes to a change order, whether it's either editing the description name or the price, if you have to revert it back so that you can make changes to the actual details and send it for signature, you see the options that you have here. This gear icon will help us control each change order. And when I create my jobs in professional mode, I have an option here that says create a phase and plan automatically. So once I click this, it'll automate the process so that I don't need to come in here and manually add a phase. It does very similar to Advanced, where it just creates one for me, and it just makes sure that any of the cost here will point to the change order. Okay, so let's move on to invoicing. For the AIA contracts, you'll see, I want to walk through an example so you can see how it's shown on the continuation sheet. We'll just come in here and create a new invoice. That's another thing too, your approval date for the change order is important for AIA jobs, because when you come in to create a new invoice and you choose your billing date, you'll need to make sure that this date here that you set as billing is on or after when the change order has been approved. If I set that date to before we approve this change order, I will not be able to invoice for it. So go ahead and enter in some completed work here for my line item and my change order. And we can see how this information is displayed on the AIA invoice. You'll see the first page, it does have a change order summary here. So I can see, what's been approved during this billing period, the total amount. This will obviously update as I continue to bill for my change order. But here it's mainly just building our main invoice for the GC. It's the continuation sheet here. We will separate where the change orders are. So you have all of your line items and schedule of values, and each change order will be separate. And you can see how the name of how it's displayed is using that GC reference instead of the change order number 1 generic name that I gave it. So that's how invoicing the change orders for the AIA jobs would work. We'll pop back into our standard project and walk through the invoicing there. It's also very similar and straightforward. Essentially, a change order is not much different than us invoicing for a line item on a progress invoice. I can put a percentage or dollar amount against it, and Knowify is going to help me keep track of what I've billed, what is remaining to be billed, and the total amount will always be referenced as well. So when I come in to create a new invoice, you'll see that any approved change order shows up as an option for me here. And if I change my invoicing method to switch between percentage or a dollar amount, the change order option will follow suit. So it's treated very similarly here, where I can put in a percentage or a dollar amount here for what I'm billing my change order. And this will bring it onto the invoice. So I can always customize this further once we get this to the invoice. We can come in here and change the name. Maybe I don't want to show the percentage complete. Maybe I want to put in a little bit more detail. Or maybe we want to group together the change order with other line items so that rather than them see the breakdown, they just see one total price. I can do this with the target icon on the right, which helps me customize the placement and where I can group items together. At this point, the change order and our regular line item are essentially the same here on the invoice as far as being able to customize how it looks and how we display it to the customer on the invoice. And just to give you an example of how this would look on our stock standard template for the invoice, I have this grouped where I'm showing the information in the group. So here it'll show the description and the price, but I can also group it together and hide this so they don't see this breakdown. They just see total price and this amount. Or I can remove it from the group so that the change order is its own line item. It's entirely up to you. You have a number of different customization options here for this. Okay, and last step here is before we go on to the reporting, just want to show you how the job status gets updated by these change orders. When I have a change order that's pending a signature or it's currently saved as a draft, we switch the job from active to pending changes. So whenever you see pending changes here in your main contract jobs page, this indicates that the job is active. The customer did approve the contract. So at one point, at least, it was an active contract here, but it's pending change. So we're waiting for the final value of this total contract, whether or not this change order gets sent out for signature and approved or rejected, or if we remove it altogether. And just another thing here, if I did need to make changes to a change order that has already been sent out for signature, this is a common question we get. The change order request would have to be canceled first. So once I cancel that request for change order, it switches it back to a draft. So now I can make changes to the information, I can make changes to the pricing, and then I can either make it active or resend it out for signature. All right, so before we get to the questions, I just want to show you two reports that factor the change orders in heavily. The first is in your contract section of any job, you'll have a CO report. This will focus on the change order status and the total amount, so I can separate between how much has been approved and how much is pending. I can also run this report instead of doing it from here. It's located under the activity and reports section, in reports, underneath contract summary report. So let me see if I can share my screen here and show you an example of one of these. Okay, so it exports to a spreadsheet, and it will include the original contract information, separates it. Then I get a list of all of my change orders here with their change order number. And most importantly, I have the status here. So it lets me know, these two change orders were approved. These three here are pending, either signature or as a draft. But at least I get this breakdown here at the bottom that'll show me, what's total as far as approved, and what the pending change order amount is that could eventually be approved as well. Once it's done, it will factor into the total cost of our contract, which at this point is taking into account this 33, which is our total contract amount, and our two change orders that were signed. Once a change order is approved or signed, it factors into the total cost of the contract, but these pending ones will not factor in until we make them active or our customer signs them. So this is reviewing the change order information at a job specific level. We can also run the change order report. And first, let me just show you where you would find that. I'll pop back into Knowify here. This would be located under the main jobs reports page, because this is going to take into account change orders across all of your jobs over a given time frame. So you can get there either in your contract jobs page by clicking job reports at the top, or we have a reporting section, usually under the more tab here at the bottom left. So you can actually hit reports, and then under contract jobs, it's all the same. You'll see the change order report located near the bottom. And here you can just set the date range that you want us to pull change orders from. So if we just want to see the change orders from the last week, the last month, the last year, that can all be done here. And let me pull up an example of how this report will look. This report also a spreadsheet. This will give us columns, which give us more information about each change order. So I get the date the change order was created here and the job that it is for. All of this is sortable, and it's in Excel or a spreadsheet format. So you can always modify, put in your own formulas or information and sort as you need. It's basically giving you the data from Knowify in a way that you can easily manipulate and store. I get the customer name. I'm very unoriginal and use the same one usually, but this will be whatever customer that you use to create this job for. I get the change order number for each of these, and also the name of the change order here. So this does not include that GC reference that we had on the AIA job. It'll just be whatever I enter as the description for that change order when we initially build it and make it active or save it as a draft. Pretty straightforward. I get the value of each, and I would say the status is the most important part of this. It'll show you whether or not the change order has been approved, if it's out for signature, or if it's saved as a draft. So I can also see a column here for my sales lead and project manager. So if you're diligent in filling this out, if this is stuff that you use on other reports and other areas in Knowify, then we can see change orders that were sent out, who's in charge of them, and where we are with each change order. So it's a very valuable report in that regard. And it doesn't just limit us to one job. We set the date range, and I'm looking at everything here from July through today. And I can see, we have a bunch of these are approved. Most of them are. That's very good. I have a couple that are in draft, so I know we need to get these out for signature. And maybe we want to follow up on the one that we did send for signature back in July. All right, that is the majority of what I wanted to cover today as far as the change order process goes. Go ahead and open up the floor for questions here. I see we have a few already. So if you have any questions on anything I went over or anything that I may not have gone over, please submit that in the Q&A box, and we have some time to go through them now. First question here, do we have any handouts? I'm not sure what this is referring to, if this is referring to like promotional material for this webinar. We did send out an email. We can send you a copy of it, but we don't have any like pamphlets or anything like that. This is being recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel. We'll at the very least be able to generate a YouTube link for you if you want to share this or come back to this at a later date. Sorry if I didn't directly answer the question, just give me more information on what you're looking for. We're happy to help. Next question here, is it possible to remove the "we hereby agree to make changes specified for total listed above" in quotes and the contractor signature line below? We always manually remove it after saving it to Word, but it would be nice to be able to remove it from the default template. Great question here, Seth. So this is something that we can customize for you based on our document changes feature. This is available to accounts that are subscribed to the growth or the enterprise account. So if you are under one of those tiers in your subscription to Knowify and you're interested in making changes to this document or any document that you generate in Knowify, please feel free to submit a message to support@knowify.com or just click the blue support button at the bottom left of your screen. And we can certainly remove that for you so that you're not manually doing it every time. We can just adjust it from your actual template. Okay, so question here for AIA jobs. When change orders are created with multiple line items, it confuses the GC when they see each line item on the schedule of values rather than the total amount of all line items on that change order. It's a valid point here. This is if you use the same change order number to group them together on the document, it's still going to separate it on your schedule of values on the AIA invoice. From what I understand, this is a pretty standard process. There's not much wiggle room as far as making changes to that, but we'll certainly pass your feedback on to our team just so that you can see if we can group them together similarly on the invoice as we do on the document itself. Otherwise, it might be easier to just keep them separated when you create them so that it's at least consistent in that regard. Still have some time here. If anybody has any other questions, please don't hesitate. You can put it in the Q&A box. If your question doesn't get answered here or you want more information about change orders, you can actually at any point schedule a training session or reach out to us by emailing support@knowify.com. This is also available in the bottom left of your screen by clicking the blue support button. We actually have a lot of resources on change orders already built in here. So you can search for it and find a number of different guides and tutorials on this. If you don't find what you're looking for, or if you have a specific question or want to schedule a training, you can click the contact us button, and this will reach our whole team so we can guarantee you the quickest turnaround and support. It doesn't look like I have any other questions rolling in here, so we're going to go ahead and break for today. I want to thank you guys again for taking out the time to join us. Hopefully we're able to provide some more information on the change orders. And if you have any other further questions, any feedback, or any topics that you'd like to see in a future webinar, please feel free to reach out. We always appreciate any of your feedback. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.